Look at your grocery receipt from last week. Just look at the line for chicken breast or that package of ground beef. Prices went up again, didn't they? It feels like you're practically taking out a second mortgage just to put basic protein on the table for your family. Big food corporations love this. They want you trapped in that endless checkout line, watching your hard-earned cash disappear into their pockets month after month. But here's the catch. You don't need their plastic-wrapped styrofoam trays to survive. You don't have to be at the mercy of their broken supply chains anymore. There is a completely different way to build your security, and it starts right in the dirt behind your house. Imagine a group of underground laborers, plants that don't ask for a monthly paycheck. You put them in the ground once, just one time, and they spend the next 10, 20, or 40 years turning sunlight and soil into high-density protein. Some of these quiet survivors pack more muscle-building power per gram than a prime cut of steak. They don't care about inflation. They don't care about grocery store shortages. Today we're breaking down 10 protein powerhouses that'll turn your backyard into a permanent source of food you can actually eat. And you will want to pay very close attention when we get to number 3. It is an ancient desert survivor that thrives on absolute neglect, the kind of tough crop that big commercial seed brands hope you never discover. Let's kick things off at number 10 with moringa. Now, if you scroll through health food blogs, you will see big brands trying to sell you tiny jars of green moringa powder for $30 a pop. They call it an exotic miracle. But let us look at the actual math. Fresh moringa leaves are roughly 9% protein by weight. Strip those leaves off the branch, dry them out in the sun, and that number shoots up to 27%. That's higher than a chicken breast. Even the UN studied this thing and confirmed it's got all 9 essential amino acids, making it a complete protein. And that's incredibly rare for anything with green leaves. Don't let the fancy marketing fool you, though. Go talk to someone who grew up in the Philippines or Jamaica. They will laugh at the idea of moringa being a rare health food secret. To them, it is just that tough tree growing wild by the side of the road or next to the chicken coop. It is everyday food. You can grow it yourself easily if you have full sun and sandy, well-draining soil. This tree absolutely hates wet feet. If you leave its roots sitting in a puddle, it will rot and die on you within a week. If you live up north, where the winter brings heavy snow, do not plant it in the ground. It will not survive the frost. Put it in a large container on wheels, prune it down like a small shrub, and roll it into the garage or a makeshift greenhouse before the first freeze hits. It'll drop its leaves and go dormant for the winter. But if you harvest and dry a big batch right before rolling it inside that fresh green powder in the middle of January is worth every bit of the sweat. Moving to number 9, we have lentils. Now these aren't long-lived trees, but they earn their spot on this list because they are the ultimate self-seeding fast track to protein. Most people treat lentils like the boring bag of rocks sitting at the very back of the pantry, the emergency food you only touch when you forget to buy real groceries. That is a massive marketing mistake. These tiny seeds are packing roughly 26% pure protein when dry, gram for gram that beats commercial beef. Ask any survivalist or high-end nutrition expert, and they'll tell you these tiny seeds are right at the top of the list for clean, high-density human fuel sources. The real magic happens underground, though. Lentils are not a burden to your garden, they are a massive asset. They have a deal with the local bacteria to pull nitrogen straight out of the air and pump it into your dirt. They are literally making your land richer just by existing. Plant them during the cool days of early spring, when the soil is between 65 and 75 degrees. They want light, loamy soil, and once they get their roots established, they barely ask for a drop of water. When the lower pods turn brown and start rattling like a box of matches, they are ready. Pull the plants, harvest the seeds, and then chop up the leftover green vines and leave them right on top of the soil. Next season, when you plant heavy feeders like corn or winter squash in that exact spot, they will take off like a rocket because of the nitrogen wealth of the lentils left behind. Then at number 8, there is asparagus. This is what I call a true long-term investment for your garden. Most crops make you work every single year. Till you plant, you sweat, you harvest, and then the winter kills it, and you start from zero. Not asparagus. You plant one crown, and it will push up tender green spears every single spring for 20 years or more with almost no intervention. It contains specialized compounds like aspartic acid that help your body repair its cells. The ancient Egyptians knew this. Roman emperors used to pay fortunes to have it carried across the mountains out of season. I heard an old-timer from West Virginia talking about this. He is 78 years old now. He said there is a patch of asparagus on his family's mountain farm that his grandmother planted over a century ago. It is still producing. He joked that when he put in a new bed last year, people asked if he was worried about waiting 2 years for the first real harvest. He laughed and said, "If you can guarantee me 20 more years of life, I will happily watch the dirt for 2. And that is the secret. You have to buy bare root crowns in early spring. Dig a deep trench about a foot deep and space them out. For the first 2 years, you do not harvest a single spear. You just let them grow into tall, feathery ferns. Yeah, it takes some serious patience, and honestly, it's going to test you. But that wait is exactly what builds the massive root system that will feed your grandchildren." Number 7 brings us to edamame. These are just young green soybeans, but they are an absolute powerhouse. They are roughly 11% protein by weight in their fresh state. And just like moringa, it is a complete protein. Heck, even nutrition scientists agree that soy protein holds its own against actual animal meat. It's a clean, simple snack. When you're ready to plant, just wait until the very last frost has passed and the soil feels warm to your hand. They want rich dirt with plenty of old compost. Drop the seeds about an inch deep. They handle short droughts pretty well, but if you want plump, heavy pods, you need to give them consistent water, right when the blossoms start to show. Now, here is the warning. Every bug in the neighborhood loves young soy leaves. They will chew your plants down to stubs if you let them. Do not run to the big box store to buy a $40 jug of chemical pesticide. That junk completely nukes the beneficial microbes in your soil. Instead, smash up a few cloves of garlic, mix it with some hot pepper powder and water, and spray it on the leaves. It costs pennies, keeps the bugs away, and leaves your food clean. Harvest the pods when they look fat and bright green before they start to turn yellow and dry out. Look, let's be real for a second. If you're just scrolling through looking for some magical lazy hack to fix your life without breaking a sweat, do me a favor and click away right now. Seriously, go watch a life hack video. But if you're the type who looks at a patch of dirt and sees freedom, if you're willing to put skin in the game and use your own muscles to build self-reliance, then hitting that subscribe button right now is an investment in your own future. We are digging up the old practical knowledge that the commercial market tried to bury. Stay with us because the next few plants are where the real shift happens. Next up at number 6, we've got quinoa. The grocery stores treat this stuff like gold. They put it in fancy boxes with high prices and call it an exotic superfood. The Incas called it the mother grain, and it sustained a massive empire up in the mountains where almost nothing else could breathe. It sits at roughly 14% pure protein when dry. NASA actually spent a fortune researching quinoa for long-term space missions because you could practically live off nothing else and your body wouldn't skip a beat. Here's the part the big commercial seed brands skip over. Quinoa does not need an alpine mountain or a space lab to grow. It thrives in poor, neglected soil. In fact, if you give it too much fancy fertilizer or high-dollar nitrogen, the plant gets confused, grows 20 feet tall, and flops over without producing a single seed. It wants to struggle a little bit. Sow the seeds thin in early spring. It handles the early cold easily and laughs at dry spells, but you want it setting seed before the blistering midsummer heat hits. When the seed heads turn bright red or yellow and feel dry to the touch, rub them between your palms. If the seeds pop out easily, it is time. But remember this practical warning. The seeds have a natural coating called saponin. It tastes like bitter soap. Birds hate it, which is great for keeping pests away. But you will hate it too if you don't wash it off. Put your harvest in a fine mesh strainer and run water over it while scrubbing with your hands until it stops foaming. If you don't, your high-protein dinner will taste like a bucket of laundry detergent. At number 5 is the winged bean. In certain tropical regions, they call this plant a supermarket on a vine. You can eat the leaves like spinach, and the flowers literally look like blue butterflies, but taste just like sweet mushrooms. Even the young pods are crunchy, and if you dig up the roots, you get a tuber that tastes like a rich, nutty potato. But the real prize is the mature seeds. They hold between 29 and 39% pure protein by weight. That completely dwarfs commercial soybeans and beats meat by a mile. Heck, way back in 1975, a whole team of top agricultural experts put out a massive report calling this thing the most promising crop on Earth. So, why haven't you seen it in your local supermarket? Because industrial agriculture cannot harvest it with a giant combine tractor. It needs to be picked by hand on a trellis. Big corporations hate things they cannot automate. You can grow it if you have hot, humid summers. It needs a fence or a very sturdy wooden trellis because the vines grow with absolute aggression. Give them water, regularly pick the young pods for dinner, and leave a few to dry out so you have seeds for next year. It is a 4-in-1 insurance policy for your backyard. Number 4 is hemp. People get nervous when you talk about this plant because of its cousin, but the seeds are one of the most perfect foods ever created by nature. They offer roughly 31% pure protein when dry, plus they're loaded with the kind of healthy fats that keep your ticker running perfectly. Ancient warriors used to carry bags of these seeds into battle because a single handful could keep a man marching for days through the mud. Getting this stuff to grow is a joke. It thrives in almost any temperate climate. It wants full sun and deep soil. Once it gets past the seedling stage, it requires almost zero maintenance. It grows so fast and so thick that it naturally blocks out the light, killing off any weeds underneath without you ever having to pull them. And its long taproot works like an underground drill, breaking up hard, compacted clay soil. It is like hiring a crew to till your land for free. When the seed heads look dry and papery, cut them down and beat them inside a clean 5-gallon bucket to separate the seeds. It's easy, completely legal, and honestly, it just works. Now, we need to take a step back and talk about something the flashy internet gurus always skip over. You see all these videos bragging about plants having more protein than meat. But there is a hidden catch, a major piece of misinformation. They are giving you numbers based on dry weight. Think about it. To get that massive hit of protein from dried moringa, you have to eat a football-sized pile of dry powder. Nobody does that. Your stomach cannot handle it. Plus, human bodies are designed to absorb animal protein much more efficiently than raw plant matter. That is just basic biology. Think about this instead. There is a clever way to use these plants that completely changes the game. You don't have to force yourself to eat pounds of green leaves every day. Instead, you use these high-protein, high-yield powerhouse crops to feed your backyard livestock. Plant a massive hedge of moringa and tree collards right next to your chicken coop. Drop your extra lentils and winged beans into the rabbit pens. These animals will eat those super plants all day long for free. They turn that tough plant fiber into rich, highly absorbable animal protein and high-quality manure. You are essentially using nature's own machinery to filter and concentrate the nutrients. You get better eggs, richer meat, and a garden full of rich compost without spending a single dime on commercial feed bags at the store. It is how you beat the system. That brings us to our top 3, starting with the tepary bean. This is the ultimate fortress against a changing climate. While big industrial farms are crying about droughts and spending thousands of dollars on complex irrigation systems, this little bean just sits in the desert sand and smiles. It was cultivated for 5,000 years by indigenous peoples in the hottest, driest parts of Arizona and Mexico. It contains 23 grams of protein and has a unique structure that helps stabilize blood sugar. Seriously, if you try to baby this plant, you will kill it. Treat it right. Put it in rich, expensive potting soil, water it every morning, and the roots will turn to absolute mush. It hates that. It wants the absolute worst spot in your yard, the dry, sandy patch by the driveway where nothing else will grow. If you're down south, plant the seeds when the summer heat hits its peak. Up north, get them in the ground as soon as the soil warms up in June, so they finish before the autumn frost. Don't even think about watering them unless you see the leaves starting to completely shrivel. In about 70 days, the pods will turn dry and thin like old paper. This plant is a survival insurance policy. It adapts to your specific dirt so fast that if you save the seeds from your best plants this year and drop them back in the ground next season, the next generation will be twice as tough as the first. Number 2 is the tree collard. If you live in a place with mild winters, this might be the most productive piece of ground in your entire yard. Regular collard greens are annuals. They grow for a few months, bug you for water, go to seed and die. Tree collards are completely different. They look like prehistoric survivors growing into massive sprawling woody bushes that can reach 8 feet tall. They can live and produce heavy crops of thick purple-tinged leaves for 40 years. They are roughly 4% protein by weight fresh. That sounds low compared to dry beans, but remember, this is a live, heavy leaf that you can harvest every single day of the year through the heat of summer and the chill of winter. Portuguese sailors used to carry cuttings of this plant on their ships to prevent scurvy. It prefers rich, moist soil, but once those deep roots lock into the ground, it can handle almost anything. You do not grow this from seed. It rarely ever makes them. Instead, you find someone who has a bush, cut off a woody branch, stick it into a jar of clean water until roots appear, and drop it in the dirt. It is a gift plant. One single cutting can feed your family for the rest of your life. And here is an insider tip from the old-timers. Wait to harvest your biggest crop of leaves until right after the first light frost of winter. The sudden drop in temperature panics the plant, forcing it to convert its stored starches into pure sugars to keep from freezing. The leaves lose all their bitterness and taste as sweet as candy. Finally, at number 1, we have chaya. This is the plant that reminds us why self-reliance is so dangerous to big business. The ancient Mayans used this large leafy shrub as their primary source of nutrition for generations. The fresh leaves carry up to 7% pure protein, and they are absolutely loaded with iron, calcium, and vitamin C. They blow kale and spinach completely out of the water. So, why haven't you ever heard of it? Why isn't it in the grocery stores next to the lettuce? The answer is simple. Chaya is incredibly easy to grow from a simple stick shoved into the ground. It requires no chemical fertilizers, no special patented seeds, and no corporate intervention. Big agricultural companies cannot make a profit on a plant that anyone can copy for free in 5 seconds with a pair of garden shears. So they ignore it. They pretend it doesn't exist. Keep this safety rule in mind, though. Raw chaya leaves contain natural compounds that release hydrocyanic acid. It is a defense mechanism to keep wild animals from eating the bush. If you chop these leaves up and throw them raw into a morning smoothie, you are going to have a very bad day. You will get incredibly sick. But nature leaves an easy escape hatch. Cooking breaks down that chemical completely. All you have to do is drop the leaves into a pot of boiling water, or toss them in a hot skillet for 5 minutes. After that, the poison is entirely gone, leaving behind a safe, rich, high-protein green that tastes better than any commercial spinach you have ever bought. Drop a stem cutting in the dirt, and in warm climates, you'll have a massive wall of green food within a few months. That right there is true independence. The seasons are shifting, the weather is getting unpredictable, and the prices at the local supermarket are not going back down anytime soon. The earth is waiting for you to make a choice. You can keep letting those giant grocery chains bleed your wallet dry every week. Or you can take control of your own square footage. You live up north, where the ground freezes solid and you can't grow. These tropical greens do not give up. Search online for small independent farms selling whole dried moringa or chaya leaves. Buy them in bulk, store them in glass jars, and use them to fortify your winter stews. It is still far cheaper and better for you than anything sitting on the commercial shelves. Go out to your backyard today. Look at the dirt. Leave a comment right below this video and tell me exactly what state you live in or what your USDA climate zone is. Tell me what your soil looks like. I will look through the comments and tell you exactly which of these 10 plants will lock into your specific dirt and start building your permanent food security. Stop spending your hard-earned cash on corporate promises. Put a cutting in the ground, let the roots do the heavy lifting, and let the big food companies worry about their own bottom line. Take care of your land, and it will take care of you.